Young black girl's heartwarming gesture for a Hell's Angel reveals an incredible 1000 surprise. Jamila took a deep breath, the crisp autumn air filling her lungs with promise. Today was special, today she was going to collect canned goods for her school's annual food drive. As she stepped outside, the warm scent of roasted turkey wafted through the neighborhood, wrapping around her like a warm hug. She was determined to make a difference, one can at a time, as her mother always said. With a smile on her face, Jamila waved to Miss Betty, who was in her garden, tending to the bright marigolds. "Good morning, Jamila." Miss Betty called out, her voice warm and friendly just like every neighbor in their tight-knit town. But as she set off down the street, she noticed a figure looming on the corner, a tough-looking man in a leather jacket with tattoos snaking up his arms. It was Rick, the Hell's Angel biker. Usually, he'd strike fear in people's hearts, but today, Jamila's heart pounded for a different reason. She hesitated, memories of her mother's lessons about kindness echoing in her mind. The old teachings felt heavier today, like a treasured book worn by years of love. Summoning her courage, she walked up to him. "Need a hand?" she asked, her voice steady and bright, despite the tight knot in her stomach. Rick looked shocked, his hardened face softening just a bit. For a moment, they sized each other up, her bright eyes filled with innocence and hope, and his dark, lined face reflecting shame and regret. They pushed together as he explained his motorcycle that sputtered to a halt, a sound that echoed the struggle of his past. Jamila shared her dreams of helping others and the joy of giving, as nostalgia grew between them like a falling leaf slowly dancing to the ground. "You really care, don't you?" Rick said, surprisingly touched by her spirit. In that small moment of vulnerability, Jamila caught a glimpse of the man he used to be, and something shifted inside her. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In a moment of instinct, Rick decided to organize a charity motorcycle ride. It wasn't much, but it was a promise for hope. As Jamila heard the plans unfold, her excitement bubbled over. Yet whispers of skepticism flowed through the town. A Hell's Angel? Leading a charity? The doubts pricked at her heart like the first chilling wind of fall. With the day of the charity ride approaching, Jamila wrestled with the weight of people's eyes and judgments, while Rick confronted his past lurking like a shadow behind him. But as they revved the engines, the morning sun shone brightly, offering a moment of unity. They rode off into the world together, a pair that blended their differences into something beautiful. As hearts began to open, yet just as they took a pivotal turn, life threw them an unexpected curveball, something that could shatter the fragile bond they had built. Jamila's heart raced. Would her willingness to help extend beyond hope and dream, or would it wrench her naive spirit? The answer awaited them at the end of the road, leaving her on edge, wondering what tomorrow would bring. The charity ride was in full swing, the roar of engines filling the air with thunderous excitement. Jamila felt a rush of adrenaline, the wind whipping through her hair as she clung tightly to Rick's bike. This was uncharted territory, a wild adventure that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Around them, a sea of leather jackets and polished chrome glinted in the sunlight, flanked by curious onlookers who eyed them with a mixture of awe and apprehension. They arrived at the local park, a place that usually buzzed with laughter and children's games. Today, however, it transformed into a gathering spot for bikers and families alike, all merging for a cause that seemed larger than themselves. Jamila hopped off the bike, her pulse racing, and took in the scene. Long tables were set up filled with food, games, and flyers promoting donations. Each detail felt monumental in the scope of change they were trying to achieve. Despite the festive atmosphere, Jamila felt a weight settle on her chest. People were still skeptical. Whispers floated around, snide remarks hanging in the air like dark clouds. What's a gang member doing leading this? They cut into her enthusiasm, twisting the excitement into doubt. But what she didn't expect was the way Rick's eyes sparked with determination, as he caught the murmurs. "So, they want to doubt us," he said, clenching his fists for a moment, but then shaking off the tension. "We'll show them." His words fueled Jamila's resolve. "Let us do it. We'll prove them wrong." She smiled, a combination of fear and excitement racing through her. For Jamila, this was more than just a ride, it was a chance to break barriers. As the event kicked off, people began to gather around. Rick started sharing his story, his struggles, his journey of recovery from a life that had nearly consumed him. Jamila watched, mesmerized by how he transformed before everyone's eyes. The tough exterior cracked open, revealing a man wrestling with his past but pushing for a better future. With each word, he pulled the crowd closer, his vulnerability resonating deeply. Then, something unexpected happened. It began with a few hesitant donations, then quickly snowballed as word spread through the crowd. People pulled out cash, checks, coins. Jamila watched with wide eyes as the total started climbing, reaching heights she had never imagined. Anxiety melted away as joy flooded in. Then, in a moment that caught everyone by surprise, Rick pulled out a small box from his leather vest. "I'm putting in the first grand," he announced, his voice steady. The crowd went silent, eyes widening. It was a powerful gesture, a leap of faith that turned whispers of doubt into gasps of awe. "Just because I have a past, doesn't mean I can't change," he declared, a fierce glint in his eye. Jamila felt tears sting her eyes, filled with gratitude and admiration. Rick had given not just dollars, but a piece of himself. However, the surge of emotions was cut short by a loud crash. A distant rumble echoed down the street as several bikes skidded to a halt, and she peered through the crowd, heart pounding. Her stomach dropped when she recognized the familiar faces of a group she hoped would never show up, their cold presence radiating tension that prickled the back of her neck. Could this charity event turn disastrous? Would the shadow of Rick's past come crashing down on their moment of triumph? The air thickened with questions as Jamila steeled herself, gripping tightly onto hope, her mind racing for a plan. What was about to unfold was out of her hands, yet she had to believe that courage and kindness could weather any storm. They had come too far to turn back now. The tension in the air was palpable as Jamila's gaze locked onto the approaching figures. Through the haze of excitement, the last thing she expected was to confront ghosts from Rick's past. It wasn't just any group, it was the very crowd that had once surrounded him, the crew he had battled to escape. Their leather jackets seemed to absorb the sunlight, casting dark shadows that felt heavier than ever. Rick's back went stiff. Jamila noticed the way his jaw tightened, a storm gathering behind his calm facade. She stepped closer, wanting to shield him, yet unsure how to shield anyone from this. The crowd held its breath, uncertainty floating in the mixed air of charity and anxiety. "Hey, look who decided to show up," one of the newcomers sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "Thought you could just ride away from us, huh?" "Leave him alone," Jamila found herself saying, surprising even herself with the fierceness in her tone. She felt her heart beat louder, as if trying to drown out the impending confrontation. Everyone around them was watching, and for a moment, she became acutely aware of the collective gaze, heavy with anticipation and judgment. Rick stepped forward. "I'm not running from anything. I'm trying to build something better." The rival gang's laughter cut through the air, sharp and unkind. "Look at you, man. You think sharing your story makes you a hero? You're still one of us. You can't just act like you're changed now." Jamila's chest tightened. She looked at Rick, caught somewhere between anger and sadness. But she sensed something grow in him, a flicker of hope battling against his fear. "I'm not one of you anymore," Rick's voice cemented this realization. "I'm done with that life. I'm here to make a difference." "Difference? Is that what you call it?" A taller figure stepped closer, eyes narrowed, defiance sparking in their depths. Jamila took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. It wasn't just about Rick. It was about everyone who had come here today, every dream and every act of courage they were trying to forge in this park. You don't get to speak like that to him. This is about hope. This is about helping people. Look at all these folks. She insisted, gesturing to the thriving crowd that had gathered, most nodding in silent support. For a heartbeat, silence hung in the air. Rick looked at her, and in that look, Jamila felt an unspoken connection. A shared vow, a promise that maybe, just maybe, they were on the right side of this fight. Then, the outsider gang member laughed, a real, ugly sound that echoed through the air. This is weak, man. You call this change? All these pity donations. Just a bunch of pretenders playing nice. Rick straightened up, defiance glimmering in his eyes. It's more than what you'll ever understand. You can mock it, but you can't tear it down. We are not afraid of what the world brings now. But Jamila could sense the tension boiling just beneath the surface. The crowd began murmuring, some were defensive, some anxious. A fight felt imminent, and Jamila's pulse raced. Suddenly, the sound of an engine revving pierced through the mounting tension, cutting right in. Everyone turned as a motorcycle rolled into the park, powerful and commanding. The heavy-set figure on it was a silhouette against the sun, casting an authoritative presence instantly. Jamila squinted, recognizing the man before he dismounted. Her heart dropped. It was the club president, a notorious figure known for his rapid temper and equally fierce loyalty to his crew. What was he doing here? The growing threat overshadowed the joy of the charity, and Jamila felt a jolt of fear race down her spine. What would this mean for Rick? For their cause? Could this whole event spiral out of control right when they were beginning to find their footing? As he approached, she wondered if salvation would come from them, or if this was just the prelude to chaos about to unfold. Could they hold on to hope when everything teetered on the edge? The roar of the motorcycle faded into an eerie silence as the club president strolled forward, eyes scanning the crowd with an unsettling calm. Jamila felt a cold shiver crawl up her back. It was as though the air itself had thickened, tightening around them like a vice. Rick, he called out, his voice a low rumble that commanded attention. The tension crackled like electricity, and Jamila felt everyone holding their breath, waiting for a spark. Rick stepped back slightly, his shoulders tensing again. This isn't your territory anymore, Fred, he said, his voice steady, but Jamila could hear the underlying tremor. I'm not part of that life. Fred chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth or humor. Life? You think you can just decide to be free? He took another step closer, and the gang members behind him shifted, their presence a wall that seemed to block out any hope. You'll always have a piece of that life in you, no matter how hard you try to pretend. The crowd began to murmur again, the anxiety palpable, but Jamila couldn't let this moment slip into despair. He's right, Rick, she said, her heart racing. But it's what you do from here that counts. She turned to the club president, confronting him with her gaze. And you can't dictate who he becomes. This isn't just about the past. It's about the futures we're building here. Fred's smirk faded, replaced by a cold glare. You shouldn't get involved, girl. This doesn't concern you. He leaned in, closer to Rick. Not when you have a choice to walk away from it all. Before Rick could respond, Jamila found herself stepping between them. No more walking away. You don't own him, or any part of his journey. We're all here for something bigger. A ripple of energy surged through the crowd, sparks of solidarity lighting faces that had been muted with fear. The people around them began to gather, murmurs of confirmation rising like a chorus. She's right, we're here for him. Fred paused, his expression shifting. It was a flicker, almost imperceptible, but in that moment, Jamila saw doubt creep into his eyes. Suddenly, sheer determination overtook her nerves. If you think you can just intimidate him like you used to, you're mistaken. People are stronger together. Look around. We're not here to back down. For a moment, she thought she saw confusion on Fred's face, as if he had underestimated the power of community, the strength of hope. But then he straightened, the edge returning. "You're playing a dangerous game, girl. This isn't a fairy tale where everyone gets to dream." Jamila took a deep breath, her heart racing. "Maybe not. But dreams are worth fighting for," she shot back. "You can be the villain or the hero in our story. It's your choice." The weight of her words hung in the air. She cast a quick glance at Rick, who nodded with a flicker of gratitude, the bond between them strengthening. The crowd held steady, refusing to break under Fred's gaze, ready to stand firm. Together, Fred looked around, the gauntlet laid before him, a challenge woven in the very fabric of the moment. "Change is hard, kid," he said finally. "You think you've got what it takes to stay on this path?" "We'll find out," Rick declared, his voice booming with newfound resolve. "We're here to lift each other up, not tear one another down." But before Fred could respond, a shout erupted from the back of the crowd. "Look!" Someone pointed behind him, and Jamila turned, eyes widening in confusion. Ahead, a group of children raced toward them, balloons bobbing in the breeze, laughter spilling into the tense air. They burst into the scene, innocent and unaware of the heavy contest happening just moments before. One small girl broke away, her cheeks flushed with excitement, clutching a colorful envelope that looked almost oversized in her tiny hands. "We brought this," she shouted, running straight towards Rick and Jamila. As the crowd turned to follow her, Jamila felt a wave of warmth rush over her. What was in that envelope? Could it be exactly what they needed to keep the hope alive in this community? Fred's face soured as he surveyed the scene, irritation marking his features. Did he realize he was losing control of the narrative? Jamila smiled at the little girl, her heart swelling with hope. Would this spontaneous display turn the tide in their favor? She felt the moment shift around them as the atmosphere turned electric again. And in just that moment, she wondered, could this small gesture become a pivotal turning point in their fight for a hopeful future? The little girl dashed forward, her laughter ringing like a bell, a joyful sound cutting through the tension that had settled over the crowd. Jamila's heart fluttered as she watched the child, her innocence a stark contrast to the dark cloud hovering above them just moments earlier. The oversized envelope bounced against her tiny body, wanting to be opened, to share its secrets with the world. "Open it! Open it!" A few voices called from the crowd, curiosity bubbling over. Jamila glanced at Rick, who stood frozen, taken aback by the unexpected disruption. Even Fred seemed momentarily distracted, irritation fading as he watched the buoyant child approach. She reached Rick first and, with a beaming smile, lifted the envelope to him. "Look! We made this for you." Rick bent down, his expression softening. Carefully, he peeled the envelope open. Inside, colorful drawings spilled out, artful crayon renditions of bright suns, smiling faces, and the words "We believe in you," boldly scrawled across a rainbow. Jamila felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, the innocence of those little hands capturing something so powerful. "Wow," Rick murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "This is amazing." He scanned the crowd, their faces lit with expressions of support, of hope. The little girl stood, eyes wide, waiting for his reaction like an artist anticipating the unveiling of their masterpiece. Amid the commotion, Jamila felt a surge of conviction. "This is what community looks like," she called out to the crowd. "These kids believe in the change we envision. They're counting on us." Her voice rang clear, and people nodded, stepping closer, their collective energy enveloping the space like a warm embrace. Fred had shifted again, his mask slipping as realization dawned on him. The power of hope, the spark ignited by that child's gesture, challenged everything he stood for. The crowd was no longer a mere assembly, they were a force. "You think a piece of paper can change anything?" he scoffed, trying to regain his composure. But the tremor in his voice betrayed him, revealing a hint of doubt that hadn't been there before. "It's more than that." A woman near the front shouted, her voice strong and unwavering. It's a reminder that there's always a way forward, Fred. Even for people like you. Jamila felt the fight shift in the air, a tangible force that rippled through the space between them and Fred. The children, laughing and playful, were now symbols of resilience. How could Fred deny their existence? Each moment together was stitching the community tighter, weaving bonds of hope and strength that he couldn't comprehend. As the crowd grew restless with excitement, Fred's eyes darted around, searching for an escape, something to regain the upper hand. Jamila stood tall, feeling emboldened by the little girl's unexpected gift. What do you want, Fred? To keep this community scared? Or to join us and build something better? But before Fred could answer, a new sound broke through a revving motorcycle engine in the distance. Jamila's heart sank as she recognized the unmistakable roar. Two more bikes, headlights cutting through the dimming light, emerged from the haze, approaching with intensity. There's more coming, Rick muttered, tension creeping back into his stance. Jamila turned to see Fred's expression morphing into something dark at the arrival of the new riders. Was this a show of strength, or a last-ditch effort to reclaim what he felt slipping from his grasp? As the motorcycles slowed and came to a halt, their riders stepped off, faces shadowed beneath helmets. The atmosphere crackled once more, thick with uncertainty. Jamila felt the air swell around her, every heartbeat echoing the growing suspense. The crowd shifted uneasily, bracing for whatever would come next. Would this new arrival tip the balance, or could the momentum of hope they created hold strong against the darkness? What would the new riders bring to this already tense standoff? Could their arrival change everything again? The sound of the idling engines hung in the air, drowning out the whispers and murmurs from the crowd. Jamila could feel the tension building like a storm cloud threatening to burst above them. Fred's gaze was fixed on the riders, an unsettling mixture of dread and defiance etched across his face. Who are they? Someone from the crowd asked, gripping their jacket tightly, eyes darting back and forth. The riders dismounted, their movements deliberate and measured. The leader, a tall figure, peeled off their helmet, revealing a weathered face that had known both laughter and pain. Scarred skin and steely gray hair told a story. Jamila's brow furrowed as she took in the sight. This was not just any random gang. These were the Hell's Angels, a reputation that preceded them. What do they want? Someone else asked, barely concealing the rising panic in their voice. Jamila felt the collective fear ripple through the crowd, simmering and spreading like wildfire. Stay together. Rick suddenly shouted, stepping closer to Jamila, as if the weight of her courage bore down on him. We've come too far to let them intimidate us. The lead rider took a step forward, their boots crunching against the gravel. We heard there was a need for a little support. Their voice, rough yet surprisingly calm, rang out. The crowd fell silent, uncertainty pulsing through each person present. Support? Fred scoffed, taking the bait. This is the last place you belong. Is it? The rider's eyes locked on Fred, piercing through the bravado. Your name's out there, Fred. People know what you've done, and they're tired of it. This community deserves a chance. Shockwaves rippled through the surrounding onlookers. Jamila could sense Rick's body tense beside her, bracing for Fred's outburst. Yet to her surprise, Fred opened his mouth to retort, then hesitated, caught off guard. Listen, the rider continued, we've seen what fear can do. It doesn't have to be like this. They reached behind their back and pulled out an envelope, older and more worn than the one the little girl had given to Rick. This is for you, they said, extending it with caution. Why should we trust you? Jamila asked, stepping forward, voice steady though her heart raced. Because some of us remember when we were just trying to stand up for a little hope, like you all are doing now. We've had enough of protecting our turf and want to protect something greater. They gestured back to their riders, who shifted, their expressions surprisingly serious. Everyone listened, breaths caught in their throats. Fred shifted again, uncertainty clouding his facade. The crowd, emboldened by Jamila's previous words, began to murmur, asking each other what this could mean. Rick stepped forward, curiosity mingling with caution. "What's in the envelope?" "Open it and see," the writer urged, nodding towards Rick. Jamila could feel the atmosphere change again, a palpable shift as the crowd leaned in, anticipation crackling like electricity in the air. The little girl, still clutching the crayon drawings, tugged at Rick's sleeve, whispers of trust swirling around her innocent gaze. As Rick took the envelope, a hush fell over everyone. Would it bring hope, or would it echo the fear they had been trying to escape? The deep breaths and anxious looks multiplied as Fred's face contorted with confusion and anger. Here stood two worlds, colliding at that moment, each participant holding in their hands a chance for something new. What would that envelope reveal? And how would the community react when they discovered its true contents? The moment Rick's fingers brushed against the worn paper, a wave of tension rippled through the crowd. He hesitated, eyes darting from the envelope to the grim faces of the writers, then back to the expectant gazes of his neighbors. Jamila could feel her heart racing, tightening like a vice as the collective energy propelled everyone to hold their breath. "What's your name?" Rick finally asked the writer. His voice was steady but laced with an undertone of skepticism. "Call me Ace," came the reply, the corner of Ace's mouth twitching slightly in a ghost of a smile. "And I'm not here to harm you. I want to help." Rick nodded slowly, as if weighing each word. This was a turning point. They all felt it. Fred's angry posture slouched slightly, his bravado wavering against the gravity of the moment. "What's inside?" Fred finally spat, desperation mingling with a touch of fear that his authority was slipping. "Open it," Ace urged again, his voice calm but firm. Rick carefully pulled the envelope open, letting the contents glide into his palm. The crowd strained to see, uncertainty hanging like fog between them. He unfolded the paper, revealing a simple note and a stack of crisp bills beneath it. "Hey, this is," Rick stammered. His eyes widened. The crowd murmured among themselves, eyebrows raised in disbelief. Even Fred leaned in, curiosity overpowering his anger. The note read, "Community support for the lost days. Use it to rebuild what was broken." Tension shattered like glass as laughter erupted from the crowd. Hope seeped into the air, warm and inviting like a spring breeze. The little girl, her clutch on Jamila's arm tight, squealed with delight. "Can we buy new crayons with that?" she whispered, her voice bright and innocent. Jamila felt tears prick her eyes. The money wasn't just bills, it was a lifeline. A chance for their community to find its footing again. It was unexpected, miraculous even. Rick's throat tightened as he looked at the amounts. This could really help us. We could use this for the community center repairs, or maybe start a youth program. Ace stepped forward. "Exactly. It's a start. You can't build new futures holding on to old grudges." His gaze swept across the group, challenging them to see the truth in his statement. Fred frowned, frustration etched on his face. "Why should we accept this? You don't belong here." "Maybe not," Ace replied, crossing his arms. "But this community matters to us too. We've done things we regret, and we've learned something through it all. It's your turn now. Make it count." A ripple of agreement spread through the crowd. They had lived through hardship, and they were tired of fear ruling their lives. Jamila could see some faces softening, hope blossoming like flowers after winter. "What if it's a trick?" Fred insisted, still struggling to relinquish his hold on doubt. "What if it's just some scheme for something more?" "Then it's your time to find out," Jamila said, her heart racing. She stepped closer to him, closer to the point of decision. "Expecting fear means you'll always find it. But expecting change? That opens up all sorts of possibilities." The little girl tugged on Rick's sleeve again. "Can we trust them, mister?" Rick looked from her earnest face to the adults surrounding him, then back to Ace. "There's only one way to find out," he replied, determination shifting in his tone. We have to take a leap of faith. Together. The crowd buzzed, a mix of hope battling it out with doubt, the future hanging by a thread of courage. As Rick turned to the community, Jamila felt the heartbeat of change thrumming in the air. What came next could either solidify their trust or send them spiraling back into fear. Would they embrace this new beginning, or cling to the past that had shackled them for so long? The weight of those choices pulsed, leaving everyone on the edge, as the sun dipped below the horizon, its last rays a promise of what could be. The night settled in quietly, the last traces of daylight giving way to a twilight glow. A mixture of murmurs filled the air, weaving through the crowd like a gentle breeze. Jamila glanced around, watching as the faces of her neighbors shifted, reflecting the emotional tide of hope. It was a delicate moment, and she knew it was vital not to lose it. Okay, let us think this through, Rick spoke up again, his voice breaking the spell of quiet contemplation. This money could really help us, but we need a plan. We can't just dive in without thinking things through. Ace nodded, sensing the weight of Rick's words. That's smart, but remember, the first step requires bravery. Fear can shackle us just as much as the lack of resources. I'm here to support you as you decide how to use this. The little girl tensed at Jamila's side, her wide eyes a mirror of the swirling uncertainty around them. What do we do now? She whispered, her small voice barely audible. Jamila knelt down, gathering the girl's tiny hands in hers. What do you want to see change in our community? What do we need most to be happy? The girl thought for a moment, a frown of concentration forming. More art programs. I want to make things with my friends. The hopeful wish sparked a flicker in Jamila's chest. Spotting Fred, she stood, feeling the courage from the girl surge within her. Rick, maybe we can start with a community dialogue. Let everyone share their ideas. It would give us a direction, a purpose for the funds. Fred crossed his arms tightly again, but Jamila could see the shifting confusion in his eyes, the tension slowly lifting. I don't know, he began, but Jamila pushed through. Let us just try it, Fred. If we don't, we'll still be stuck in the same old patterns. Everyone here deserves to be heard, to have a voice, don't you think? The crowd shifted, absorbing her words. A breath of anticipation passed through them. Okay, Rick agreed. Let us set a date. We'll invite everyone to come with their ideas. If we're going to use this money, we have to make sure it's for what we really need. A rumbling excitement brewed among the group, the energy crackling like static in the air. Jamila felt her heart quicken. Perhaps this was the beginning. Perhaps they could make something of this moment. As they all began to chatter excitedly, a shriek broke through the hubbub. The little girl was pointing at Ace, who had been standing patiently, watching them. He has tattoos. Like a superhero. She exclaimed, her eyes shining with innocent astonishment. Ace chuckled, a laugh that rolled through the crowd, loosening the remaining knots of tension. Superhero, huh? I like that. But remember, every superhero needs a team. Jamila watched as the laughter spread, feeling hope blossom in that shared moment. Maybe this would lead to something wonderful. Fred finally spoke up, a bit softer now. If we're doing this, then I want to be involved. I'll help organize. Jamila felt her breath catch. Was hope within reach? Let us make it happen, Rick urged, his enthusiasm contagious. As they began to form plans under the blanket of stars, Jamila's spirit soared. But a flicker of doubt crept in. What if it unraveled? What if they faced backlash from outsiders? Will this truly change anything? Jamila thought, her heart both racing and pounding. The night felt electric, full of possibility, but it also held the weight of the past, reminding her that risks were a part of any journey. And then, just as they laid their plans, a sudden roar of engines grew closer. Jamila's stomach dropped. The unexpected sound filled the night, sending a ripple of anxiety through the crowd. What now? She whispered, dread creeping back into the moment, as she watched the shadow of motorcycles approaching through the darkness. Could they trust the riders again after this newfound hope? Just when they thought the night was theirs, a new wave of uncertainty loomed ahead. The rumble of engines drew nearer, drowning out the excited chatter of the crowd. Jamila's heart raced, caught between hope and fear. Children's laughter faded, and a palpable tension swept through the gathering. She stood, feeling the little girl's hand tighten around hers. Ace, ever calm, stepped closer to Jamila, shielding her and the child with his presence. "Stay together," he murmured, his voice steady. "Let us see what this is about." The headlights of the motorcycles pierced the darkness, illuminating the faces that had so quickly shifted from hopeful to apprehensive. The riders emerged, their leather jackets gleaming under the flickering street lamps. Jamila recognized them, once feared figures of the local gang, now specters of unease amidst the fragile flicker of positivity. Fred stepped forward, visibly shaken. "What do they want?" he asked, tension threading his voice. But before anyone could answer, the lead rider removed his helmet, revealing a familiar face. It was Leo, the man who had once terrified their community with his brash bravado, yet now seemed oddly out of place amidst the fragile energy of the night. "Hey! Just hear me out," Leo called out, lifting his hands in a gesture of peace. "We didn't come to cause trouble. We heard what you were planning and we want in." Jamila's heart skipped a beat, hardly daring to hope. "In? What do you mean?" Leo stepped closer, his gaze scanning the crowd. "We want to help. The kids around here need more than what has been offered. We can provide supplies, tools, whatever it takes for those art programs you mentioned." The crowd stirred, whispers flickering through the air. Rick, still on edge, eyed Leo with distrust. "You expect us to just trust you? We've done bad things, I know that," Leo admitted, his tone earnest. "But there's gotta be more than just motorcycles and toughness in our lives. We want to build something, start fresh. We're tired of only being good at destruction." Jamila could see the conflict in her neighbors' faces, a mix of curiosity and doubt. She took a step forward, her heart racing again. "So you're actually willing to invest in our community?" Leo nodded, his expression shifting to sincerity. "Absolutely. We understand the need to create. We're tired of seeing our kids struggle. It's time we made things right." As he spoke, the little girl next to Jamila tugged on her hand. "Will that mean I can paint with my friends?" The question hung in the air, innocent and hopeful. Jamila knelt to meet the girl's gaze, her heart softening. "We don't know yet, but it's a start." The girl chewed on her lip, contemplating the seriousness of the moment. Just then, an unexpected laughter erupted from behind the riders. Another figure from the group stepped into the light, holding what appeared to be a large envelope. "Considering we have a little cash on hand," the woman said, flashing a bright smile, "we'll happily toss in $1,000 to kick off these programs. How about it?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Jamila felt a surge of disbelief, followed by a surge of hope. Could this really be happening? She turned back to the crowd, watching as faces transformed from uncertainty into cautious excitement. Was this the moment they had been waiting for? Could they truly stitch their lives together with people who had once been their foes? But before anyone could respond, another rider shouted with anxiety, "Wait! What if they turn on us again?" Jamila's heart sank again, the lingering doubt churning within her. Would this truly change anything, or was it just another fleeting moment of hope? As questions loomed larger than answers, she realized this could either be their breaking point or their turning point. Would they decide to embrace the chance? Jamila looked around, full of anticipation. This was just the beginning, but where would they go from here? Would it all melt away, or would they truly turn the page together? The weight of the night pressed down as she waited, breath held, for the answer. The night had swallowed the sun whole, but within the crowd, a flicker of hope burned brightly. Jamila stood at the center of it all, surrounded by faces glowing with uncertainty and anticipation. What could come after this? Rick stepped forward, his voice clear and strong. "We're willing to listen. If you want to help, we'll figure this out together." Trust hung in the air, fragile yet palpable, as the crowd leaned in, whispering among themselves. Leo nodded, a flicker of relief darting across his features. "This isn't about trust or mistrust anymore. This is about our community. We can build something from the ground up, together. We're tired of living in shadows." In that moment, Jamila felt a surge of warmth, as if the darkness surrounding them was slowly giving way to a gentle dawn. The little girl smiled wide, gripping Jamila's hand tighter. "Can I really paint and make things with my friends?" Jamila knelt down, meeting her hopeful gaze. "Yes, and even more," she replied, her heart swelling with fervor. "We just have to be brave enough to take the first step." Crowd murmurs transformed into shouts of agreement. They were ready for change. Applause rippled through the air, lifting spirits that moments before were weighed down by doubt. Fred, now looking less like a threat and more like a hopeful leader, stepped forward too. "If I'm going to be part of this good change, then I'm all in. Count me in for organizational support." Jamila could hardly believe her ears. This shift felt monumental. It was the kind of moment people thought happened only in stories. Still, hope was fragile, it needed nurturing. "Okay," Rick said, refocusing the energy. "Let us talk about what is next. We have a new plan to form." Ace stepped back into the frame, exuding calm confidence. "Let us set dates and goals. Every idea, every contribution matters." Joy burst forth as Jamila's neighbors began to share their dreams for the community. They spoke of art programs, youth sports, meals for families, each idea another thread weaving hope into the fabric of their lives. Then, a resounding cheer erupted as Leo announced, "And I'm not leaving until we have a get-started celebration. Everyone's invited." The little girl jumped up and down, her laughter contagious as it sparked the crowd to join in. Jamila felt her heart race, elation bubbling over. Perhaps they would do it together. As plans took shape, Jamila couldn't shake the feeling that their story was just beginning. With every voice joining together, they fought against doubt, clawing their way toward a brighter future. Weeks passed, bustling with energy. The community center transformed into a hive of activity. The children painted murals bursting with colors, symbols of hope painted onto their walls. They learned music, danced, laughed, and made friends, while adults engaged in workshops, too, open to learning and sharing. Even Rick found his place, mentoring kids with similar struggles and helping them navigate their own paths. One sunny Saturday, a point of celebration arrived: the grand opening of the newly renovated center. Jamila stood in awe, looking around at the joyful faces, each reflecting resilience and growth. As she spoke to the crowd, emotions swelled like waves. "This isn't just a center. It's our home now. Together, we've built something beautiful. Every one of you stood up to write this story." Cheers erupted, laughter harmonizing with melodies of music. "We will keep pushing forward, hand in hand, because together, we are stronger." In the back, Leo raised his fist, capturing the spirit in a bold gesture. Jamila felt Rick beside her, the bond they had forged stoking the flame of unity within. For Jamila, the road had shifted from uncertainty to a journey glowing with promise. As she glanced at the innocent faces of the children, now all beacons of hope, the realization hit her hard. This was transformation. No more chains of the past could hold them back. They had faced fear and judgment. And they had emerged, arms wide open, breathing in the potential of tomorrow. "Let us celebrate this moment," she called. "Let us not forget where we came from, but embrace where we are going." The crowd erupted into applause, the warmth enveloping everyone. In that moment, the community felt like a family. Hope was no longer a fleeting, abstract concept, it was a tangible reality they built together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Jamila knew it was just the beginning. Together, they would chase dreams, and as if on cue, the night sky glittered with stars, a beautiful tapestry, shining proof of how powerful the light of transformation could be. This was not just the enrichment of a community, but a deep testament to the magic of unity, a reminder that change always starts with a single, brave heart willing to reach out. Now, don't let this moment fade away. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the positivity flowing. Comment your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. You're part of this journey too. Let us keep building hope together.